You are the bookshelf and you can hold books. This is a metaphor for the fact that you don't build your own bookshelf, you don't build yourself, but you can definitely hold knowledge, right? You can receive knowledge. A bookshelf cannot be built by itself, just like you cannot build your own identity and your own worthiness. Okay, you already are worthy. And as a bookshelf, you get to hold knowledge given by God, right? You get to hold wisdom, you get to hold knowledge, you get to hold these lessons and everything. That's what's so beautiful. We come to this planet, right? Like we grow up and we get to become more of what God really created us to be through the different knowledge that we gain and through the different lessons that we receive. And the thing here is that you are built in God's image. See, so as above, so below. As below, so above. That's really the philosophy that we got to live by. That there is someone that has a sort of plan for us. We have God-given rights. We have God-given gifts. We have so much, right, Grace? She agrees. But here's the fact, you don't get to know yourself and your identity if you attempt to build yourself. That's the thing. And let me explain why. If we think that we can build ourselves like we can build a bookshelf, we're going to get very, very, very frustrated. And what I mean by that, if we use our own ego and our own sort of mm, selfish desires as to what we think that we ought to be, we set out on this journey to try to cultivate exactly this image of what it is that we have in mind. Obviously, yes, we have a God-given imagination. Yes, absolutely. But beyond that and below that and underneath all of that is our sort of the blueprint for who we are, which every single person has in common. Like we all have this in common that we are created in God's image. Just like when you're going to build a bookshelf, you get this template of how to build it. You can't have a bookshelf if you don't have, let's say, two pillars and something crossing them, right? Or it might be that some of them look like that versus others you can hang up on the wall. But in order for us to understand this, it's like someone had to have the image of us before we ever came to be. Just like a bookshelf cannot just appear all out of nowhere. It all comes from somewhere, and it all started somewhere, and it all started with a blueprint of how it were to look. And if we think about it that way, it causes us to have less frustration and less pressure to figure out like who we are and what our identity really is. It takes off a tremendous amount of pressure, and you might be like, well, I want that pressure, I need that pressure to get ahead, but you actually don't. A lot of that pressure comes from fear, out of feeling like if I don't do X, Y, and Z, then who would I be? Would I be worth anything? But when you just come to realize that you're built in God's image and that you are the bookshelf, and yes, you can hold books, you can hold wisdom, but you don't have to try to figure out all the answers. It dawns on you how um like a lot of things fall into place. I I totally believe that. You get to know yourself and your identity through talking to God and letting Him build you in intimacy to Him. That's really something that I've come to realize too, that as you sort of get this ego mind a little bit toned down, you get closer to God And you build that intimacy and that relationship with him through reading scripture, through being over just doing mindlessly, over sitting still, and also praying. When you grow that intimacy with God, you will get to know your identity through that intimacy, through simply just being. Because if we're, again, just focusing on trying to build ourselves just by our own sort of skills and by using our own brain, it's it has a limit to it. It truly does. And I think obviously we all have an identity to some extent, but deep down we all have the same identity, and that is the identity that we're building God's image. We have that in common across the board, and we all will grow through different seasons. We all have that in common for sure. No one's journey is just a straight line. And we have these uniqueness things about us. Like we have unique things about us. Um, and it's really about just being able to take that into an integrated state of being that then allows us to bring our knowledge together so that we can then be what God created us to be, which is literally just someone that is here to do God's work, to love, to have compassion, to be kind, to express, to be creative, to add value, right? And to do that not from a place of fear, but from a place of love. When you have that as your identity instead of all of these sort of skills and all of these things that you think that you ought to have and do, instead of letting yourself be defined by that, you let yourself be defined by you just being built in God's image. It's like a lot of things fall into place. Yeah. You live more peacefully. So that's it for now. Just bring this metaphor with you, hey? That you are the bookshelf and you can hold wisdom. And a bookshelf cannot be built by itself, just like you cannot build your own identity. And as a bookshelf, you get to hold knowledge given by the creator. So that's it for now. Have a great one. And anytime that you look at a bookshelf next time, remember that you too have been given a sort of template for who you are by God. And this journey is really just about allowing that to come forward, what you're really here to do and here to be. There is a greater plan at play, and that's comforting to know. All right, have a good one.